Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hello, it's Joanna Hunter here for another episode of Into the LightWeb podcast, and we're in my $1 Million Lab series. And today I am joined by entrepreneur Jess O'Connell. Hello, Jess, a very warm welcome, and come and introduce yourself to our audience and tell people what it is that you do in the world.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today. I am an online launch coach, and I help people who have online courses or coach businesses scale those launches and make a bigger impact in the world. I started my business in 2018 after my husband lost his job, and we were really in a place where I didn't know where the next thing was going to come from. I knew, though, that in that moment when he came home and it had happened, that was going to be the best thing that ever happened to us. And it really was. Up until that point, we were really living like according to our circumstances and really kind of stuck in this mindset of not enough and nothing really working for us. And it was in that moment that everything shifted, and we were able to shift into a different mindset of growth and really see the greater forces at play. And that was really what enabled us to grow so exponentially over the course of the last 2 years.
Okay, cool. So when you started your online business, what was your experience like when you first, did you have like experience in online business, or was this like because I know that when I transitioned from offline into online, it was a very like 45-degree learning curve. And it was just like, I had to learn it all from scratch. Was that your findings, or were you already in the digital kind of world already?
It was already in the digital world. I actually started like my digital life back in like 2012 when I started a blog, back when blogging was kind of a thing. And at that point, I learned, I had a knack for growing an audience, telling a story, engaging other people in what I was doing. And that had just kind of grown as the time had gone. I quit blogging in 2015 when I had my daughter, but I still had an online presence and I still maintained those relationships. So when I started my online business, it was just kind of maybe like a 10-degree turn from creating an audience to like monetizing that audience and creating offers that served that audience. And so it wasn't as big of a learning curve. And I think that that's something that a lot of people experience, is the online business world is different than the in-person business world. And especially if you're creating something that's your own like thought product. And so if you are like a coach or a course creator where like your information, like the things in your head are the product, that's a totally different ballgame when it comes to selling that product. And it really is like an inner game. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. Like, you think you're going to start a business, and if you have like a physical product business, you buy those things at wholesale, you sell them at retail, you make a profit, that's a business. But when you are creating a thought product, like, your inventory comes from inside of your brain. It comes from inside of your heart and connected to your purpose. And if you're not playing a bigger game, if you don't believe in yourself, if you're not tapping into the other forces at play, like, there's a lot of ways to self-sabotage and keep yourself playing small. Your ego gets involved. And so it really is like a much bigger undertaking than just like a selling products business.
Yeah, I love that. So I love the quote that you said, that your inventory comes from your brain, because it's so true, because you are. And I find that that's one of the things, is that, when I work with my coaching clients, one of the things is that I don't just work on their business, I work on their life and their mindset. And it's about raising
Mm,
the quality of life for everything, because you can't you can't really compound, stick it in little tiny little boxes when you're running your own kind of online business and stuff. Because if you're having a really terrible time at home and things are, relationships are maybe not great and things like that, then obviously it's going to spill into your business and stuff. So I love that, because it's all affecting it. And of course, if your inventory is also coming from your mind and you're all jammed up inside because you're working on stuff in your life, So
hmm.
that's why I always work with everything
Yeah.
together. And I think it's so connected. So when your first year was, you did six figures in your first year in your business, and um was that, did you find that having to work all the hours, or was it were you really mindful already of trying to create that work life balance? Because I think a lot of people, especially in their first year, we're super excited, we're gung-ho, we want to get it done.
Hmm. Yeah, for me, it was really funny. So, coming from that place of like our entire paradigm shifting, I was a stay at home mom. We had no income. And so, from that place of like, we needed money to survive to creating six figures was a total mindset shift. And I realized like we had been living our lives making not anywhere close to that. Like, I think my husband was making $40,000 a year. And so we had never even seen $100,000, let alone believed that we were capable of receiving $100,000. And so when I first set that goal, I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to make this happen. But I adopted the belief that, like, when I set my mind to it, I can do anything. And I had evidence to prove that belief true. I graduated from college in 4 years and I took summer school, and it wasn't easy, but like I made it happen because I set my mind to it. And so I really anchored myself into this belief that all I have to do is set my mind to something and I can make it happen. And so instead of worrying about if I'm worthy of $100,000 or how the heck I was going to make $100,000, all I did was anchor into the belief that I set my mind to it, therefore it's going to happen. And from that place, that's when I got to work and I started to put one foot in front of the other and just keep running. And just like you said, like we're so excited that I did get to a place where I totally burnt out because I was running just as fast as I could, trying to make it happen. And I had this like deep belief that came from like the former life as an employee that like the harder I work, the more money I'll make. And so I was like, well, all I have to do is work harder and harder and do more. And that's how I'll make more money. And I found that worked to a point, right? Like I think that there's this
It
tipping
totally
point.
works. It's just not
Exactly.
sustainable long term,
Exactly.
right?
It's a great way to start a business. It's not a great way to grow a business. And so I was hustling and working constantly until I hit about 10K in months. But then I had created this system where every month I had to resell $10,000 to get to that point. I had no recurring revenue. I had no like anything that would sustain
No
me beyond
stacked
that.
offers,
No
things like
stacked
that. Yeah.
offers, no logical like client journey. Like I was creating, totally burning out in my business. And it wasn't until I had this mindset shift that, like, wait a second, like, if this is how this works, then people making $1 million would do it this way, and they're not. So I have to change the way that I'm thinking about this. And that's when I created leverage in my business and created one product that I could launch a lot of times or like sell to a lot of people instead of having to recreate the wheel month after month after month, and also creating payment plans, creating stacked income, creating a customer journey, and really kind of shifting from that I have to create $10,000 every month to creating a leveraged offer that I could then create $10,000 from just that one thing. And that shift was really powerful for me. And so it really took that belief of like, I don't have to work harder to make more money. I have to do the right things. And I think I like to equate this to like digging a hole because I think a lot of people have that old set belief of like, the harder I work, the more money I'll make. And then they find themselves tail spinning. And if you want to dig a hole, would you take a little kiddie shovel and start digging it? Or would you go get a bulldozer and dig it with a much bigger shovel that's going to dig that hole a whole lot faster? And doing the right things and having leverage in your business is that bulldozer. And it gets you out of the cycle of having to use the little kid shovel to
Yeah,
dig a
which
big
just
hole.
keeps you really busy, like I
Yes.
think this is such a normal thing. And especially in that journey of going into seven figures and on the journey of that, I think the biggest issue that we have as entrepreneurs is that really, I think a lot of that, the harder I work, the more money I make, I think is really born of what I call the limiting belief of that you have to work hard for money.
Yeah.
I don't think there's probably not many people whose childhood they did not hear that at least once or twice or a million times. And so
Hmm.
I think that's such an ingrained, and it's such a societal mental block in a way. So we really start to believe that, hard work equates to more money.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we end up with this negative cycle, basically, where we're really, really busy. And for me, one of the big pivots for me in my business was realizing that there was two types of work in my business. There
Mm.
was busy work and profitable work. And
Yes.
profitable work was profitable, and busy work just made me busy.
Yeah.
And there was and I think there's a lot of people that don't realize that they just see it all as work, and this is all what I need to do for my business, but they don't stop and think, well, what are the things that actually legitimately lead me to a sale, and what are the things that actually are nice to have, like a blog and like things, but may not
Hmm.
always, may just actually make me quite busy.
Yeah.
And then when you start to see, the two together, and I love that you came to that realization, and very quickly by the signs of things, because you realize that in the first year. Many
Yeah.
entrepreneurs get quite far down the road before they wake up and smell the coffee on that one, and then they're like, oh. um so you move into this, and I loved, you looking at the millionaire entrepreneurs
Hmm.
and thinking, wait a minute, they cannot be working like this, because
Yeah.
this is not sustainable. Like, they cannot be working like this. So what gives, like, what is it that they're doing? And I think this is something that's really important, because when growing your wealth and when growing your business and stuff, there is always someone out there that is modeling an easier way. They're
Hmm.
literally modeling an easier way for you, and all you need to do is just be aware and start looking for them. Who are they? Where are they? Let's find them, because they're
Yeah.
modeling an easier way. So I love that you looked around, kind of popped your head above the pulpit, had a look around, and was like, oh, okay, so we create this one offer, and it takes your business into multiple six figures.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you now, in terms of, like, if you're building towards your seven-figure year and everything? How has that reduced your stress levels and,
Oh
like, and
yeah.
everything that you're doing?
Yeah. I'm gonna answer that, but I wanted to touch on something else that came up for me that totally shifted, that I think I've seen in other people who have seven-figure businesses as well. And I promise I'll get back to the point.
No, no, yeah.
But I think that there's this place in business in the beginning where we think that we are the source, right? And I even alluded to it, like, your inventory is from your brain, but even deeper than that, your inventory is channeled from the greater source, right? And so, like, it doesn't come from you. You are not the well of which your information comes from if you're doing it right. And if you look at people who are truly successful, they know that. And when you stop trying to, like, suck yourself dry, thinking that you are the source of your success, you are the source of money, you are the source of your clients, and really tap into this greater co creation that truly is taking place, that's when the magic happens. And I really like to think of it, we talk about being a visionary, right? We're the visionary of our business. And I'm not exactly sure that that's really what's at play here. And I like to play with the idea that I'm not the visionary. I didn't create the vision. I'm the universe's integrator. I am the creator of the vision that the universe has instilled into me. I have channeled the source and I am creating what I was put on this earth to create, to serve the greater purpose of a higher power. And when you release the pressure of having to be the source and create all the things, and realize that, like, when I just lean into that alignment and the purpose that I've been given, and I, instead of feeling like I have to create all the things, I tap into the co-creation and like channeling the things that I am being given to create, instead of resisting it and thinking like, no, it has to be harder, because if it's only worth it if it's hard. That's another sneaky belief that I
Oh,
discovered. Was like,
massively.
it's like deep in there. You're like, ooh, like it's only worth it if it's hard or whatever. Like, I don't remember exactly how we
It's
phrase
like a
it.
little value, right? Like it's like
Yes.
the
Nothing good
again,
comes
it's like the
easy.
harder you work, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like the more value it is, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
And so it's
Yeah,
like the value and hard work combined in together, like, well, then that
totally.
makes your worth, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, and no, it can be totally worth it if it was easy too.
Totally. I've never had anything come easy that I'm like, nah, it wasn't really worth it. Like, of course
Hmm.
it was worth it. And when you stop resisting that and you really like lean into like, what is my purpose here? What am I meant to be doing? What is the thing that just comes so easily to me? And how can I co-create that vision with the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it? And that's when everything starts to flow. That's when everything
When the
changes.
magic happens,
Yes.
absolutely.
So, like, yes, creating leveraged offers and all of that, but like doing so from a place of alignment and from a place of like a deeper soul purpose. And that's when everything flows easier, and realizing that you don't have to do it yourself. Like, there is a greater thing in play that's moving these chess pieces for you when you lean into the greater purpose that you're here to serve.
I love this. And I mean, this is a big kind of principle behind JoannaHunter.com. And I mean, I'm very famous for saying that I haven't really created a single program, because every single
Yeah.
program that I have has been channeled. And
Yes.
so I love that. And one of the other things that really came up as I was listening to you there was a quote from the Course of Miracles that says, you know, fear is, or stress and fear is your sure sign that you have been trying to do it all yourself,
Mm.
instead of tapping into the greater mind, basically the source
Yeah.
of all things. Instead, you know, if you're really stressed, you've been trying to do it all yourself. And that, you know, and fear and stress, that's the indication that we're in that state of energy of like we're scrambling trying to do it all, and it's got to,
Mhm.
I've got to be the source. And I think, you know, so many of us fall into that trap. And I know I did, certainly in my early days of my career, when I had brick and mortar shops, and I had a 65-seater cafe, and then a spiritual events company, and then I had partnership in a shoe shop, and I had 3 stores, designer clothing stores. So, and I worked in the mall, so you can tell that story doesn't end well. So but we gave it a good go.
Mhm.
So, but
And
I
it was a
think, you
greater
know,
purpose for you.
absolutely, it was the most incredible training day for becoming the coach that I am today. So I
Yeah.
absolutely am so grateful for the whole thing. um so what is next for you as you're growing your business? Are you finding like the navigation of leaning deeper into this source channel?
Yeah. I think that that's been a huge evolution for me. So, what I'm doing right now and what I'm creating is this group coaching container called the Aligned Launch Lab. So, I love that yours is a lab too, because I so align with that word. And I teach people how to align to their greater purpose, align to their own energetic blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
and then launch from there. I think that there's a lot of people out there who are teaching you how to launch one way. Like, there's a right way to launch, there's a right way to grow a business, there's a right way to do things. But there isn't a right way. There's a right way for you. But how do you find that right way in the world of everyone telling you that there's only one right way and their right way is the way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, really, like, understanding the way that you're meant to launch, the way that you're meant to sell, the way that your energy works, and really aligning to your greater purpose and how you can tap into that co creation and creating offers and creating a business from that place. That's how you scale. And so, I teach people how to align their offers and their energy to themselves and then go into the lab and test it and try new things and like launch like a scientist is how I phrase it. And really looking at the data and looking at what you're receiving so that you can get the best possible offer to create that leverage. So it's both the science and the woo, and it's this really beautiful mix of being tapped into the greater source as well as like looking at the data and using that analytical mind to create a scalable offer, which I created my methodology by watching other seven-figure entrepreneurs. I became a student of their launches, not so much to learn from them as teachers, but what they were doing. I opted into their funnels. I read their emails. I was like, okay, this is what they're doing in this part. Okay, here's where they're creating demand. This is how they're making me want this. And through that process, I created my aligned launch formula. And I broke down and I tested it multiple times in my own business, scaled my offers from a $10,000 offer to a $70,000 offer. I scaled another one from an $8,000 to a $47,000 offer. And so really testing these principles in different markets with different audiences, helping my clients do the same. And now I'm putting it all into a lab where we will do it over and over again for a year and really perfect your launch so that you can scale.
I love that. I love that. It's so fun. So, and I like that I'm really into the science part. I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm a student of metaphysical science, because I just really like it. It appeals to me a lot because I think that the woo without the science can be quite ungrounded sometimes, and I think the science helps to ground it into the here and the now in the physical world, and helps your human brain kind of just keep up, really, because it can't be, like, it sounds fun, like it's all magic and broomsticks, but we got to have a little bit of real life in there too, right? Because we came here at this time to experience the human part as well. So do you have a regular spiritual practice or anything like that? Do you do you meditate every day, or is there anything that you do to connect to this one source?
Yeah, I do. I meditate almost every day. There's some days when I am overwhelmed by the channel, so I don't open it because I'm not in a place of receiving. But if I'm not meditating, then I do ground. I love being outside and getting my feet on the ground and really just connecting to the earth. And one of the most powerful visualization exercises I've created is in this process of grounding, really feeling the energy from the earth rising into my body and up through my chakra system. And then also imagining this beam of energy coming down from our source through the top parts of my chakra system, all converging into my heart center and just kind of exploding in this beam of energy outward. And I imagine that every time before I sit down to work or record a podcast or anything, and I draw the energy up through the earth and draw the energy down through the spirit and really channel it through my body and ask, how can I be of service to this greater co-creation today?
I love this. I think that's something that I think a lot of coaches don't touch on, especially in what I call the bro marketing world.
Yes, I call it that too.
And it is that they don't really touch on this being of service. They talk about being of service, but it's very transactional.
Yes.
And my interpretation of service is not a transactional thing at all. It's like, I remember one of my clients in one of my group programs came out with, her name's Mariska, and she came out with, my source of income is not my job. It is not my clients. It is not, the government or whatever. She had a list of different places where it's traditional to get income. My source of income is source. Yeah. And so therefore, if I just show up in service, then if I just show up in service and, I will be served, and it doesn't have to be the person that I'm serving. And I think for many people, especially in the kind of bro marketing world, the service, if you serve someone, it has to be them that serves you back, right. And it becomes this really transactional thing. And what I also find is, if that person does not have the means to serve you back, then it's kind of like, it's like a discard. It's like, oh,
Right.
well,
They're not
next.
worth serving.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. And the whole thing just really makes me cringe, and it feels so icky,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Yeah.
feel like what's so important is that, that we just show up in the willingness to serve, and it's source that's sending us the people, but it's also source that sends us the people that can allow us to serve. So I put out a lot, like every month I have a commitment to putting out high quality free content.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm really, really passionate about, because I know that there's people in my audience who are maybe not at a place where they can afford to invest in the programs, but I put out my high quality free content regardless, and I'm delighted whoever signs up. I'm so happy, because I know that this is serving the greater good. I know that if they take a little piece from that and they go out into the world, and that shifts their energy, like, they can pay that forward in an energy way. And I think, what's your own interpretation of this? Because obviously, um, there is so much transactional service. I think it
Yeah.
gets so convoluted, and people don't actually really understand. And for me, service is to be squeaky clean in my energy, and just simply show up within joyful service, like a heart full of joy, just to doing it from the place of joy, nothing else. No expectations of something being returned to me, just literally being in that vibes. Is that how
Yeah.
you see it, or do you have another interpretation?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think that we do have this really, we're indoctrinated to believe that like service is transactional. Like it is like exchanging a product. Like I am giving you this product, you are giving me the money. And that isn't what we're created to do. And I think that especially if we're living in our purpose and really connected to that source channel, like you are cutting off your opportunities to serve by thinking that it only has to look a certain way, or you can only serve if they've paid you or whatever. And I think that we have this really micro idea of what money is and looks like. And I think that we think that it has to be A for B equals money, But really, at the end of the day, being in greater service of the greater good, like spreading your message and being like that energetic service place, that's what attracts the opportunities to you. And and truly trusting that your clients are not the source of your money. Your products are not the source of your money. Your launches are not the source of your money. Like source is the source of your money. And by being open to that and being open to receiving that and it not having to look a certain way is the key to tapping into that like universal support and energy system. And I think that, yeah, we get it very twisted thinking like, oh, I have to have an offer and the offer is how I make the money. And I think that there's a much bigger game at play that we kind of ignore. It's again, trying to be the source, right? My offers are the source of my income. My launches are the source of my income. And we have to realize that like,
We tend
that's
to
not
live in a
true.
micro scale. We like tend to make
Yes.
it all micro, when actually what's going on is a big game, a big macro game that's massive,
Yes.
that we have no idea, and we're just playing this tiny little role in this giant game. And
Yeah.
yet we're like thinking, oh, everything's teeny weeny tiny, and it's all
Hmm.
like, it is in your control to a certain degree, but we think we're like, we are the be end and all.
And we
But
also think that like everything that happens has a purpose in that microsecond. And we forget the greater chess game at play. Like, for example, with your prior businesses in the mall, somebody could look at that situation and say, well, that didn't work out. And that means that I'm not meant to be in business. And that would be looking at that one tiny chess piece in that very small context. But if
mm,
you zoom out to the whole chessboard, you can see that that piece enabled something else bigger to happen that
absolutely.
then created your deeper purpose. And we tend to look at the little things and say, oh, this means that I can't do it. When really, like, looking at, like, what is the lesson I meant to learn from this so that I can create the bigger vision that I desire? And being open to, like, not everything in the moment has meaning. It's the greater meaning. It's a chess piece. It's a domino falling into place for your ultimate vision to come true.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. So I think so many people see, and yeah, and and also as well. I mean, one of the things that really inspired me was Steve Jobs. He did
Mhm.
the address for Stanford, and he said, this address called "Connecting the Dots" and how the dots all connect. And that really that spoke to my soul, because I realized that I had so many dots. And actually my previous businesses were just dots that weren't connected yet. And it wasn't until I became a coach that I was like, these are all now perfectly connecting,
Yeah.
because because not only that, I started mentoring people in business at the age of 24, because I started my first business at 23. People started being sent to me to be mentored at 24. And so I looked under the lid of a lot of businesses, and
Hmm.
I have a lot of business experience. And then I had four different businesses, four multiple six-figure businesses in different genres. And then, of course, I was mentoring all these people. So what you find is, these were all amazing dots. And I remember once when it all came into crystal clear clarity, I was on a call with a client, and and I started, she was wanting to make products she was into herbs and herbalism and things, that she was wanting to make products for this. And I was like rattling off like, oh yeah, you could do this, but then you're going to have to get FDA approval, and it's about $1,000 per product, and da 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 da. And then, but here would be a smarter way. You could put all the raw ingredients into a kit, put the recipe card in, and include a course on how they can make their own moisturizer,
Mm.
basically, rather than
Yeah.
having to go through all the things. And I said, you're free to sell the raw ingredients without having to go through like FDA approval. So she stopped, and she was like, can I just stop you for a minute? How do you know all this? And I thought, I was like, I had to think, like, where did the
You're like, how do
information
I
come
know
from?
that?
Like, how did I know that? And then I remembered when I was 15, I was wanting to be a biochemist, and I was really into herbs and herbalism, and I had studied extensively, like making my own cosmetics and things, and I did make my own cosmetics and stuff like that. And then I realized like all that, and it was like there was one of those dots that just connected in that moment. And it's right, when
Hmm.
you pan the camera out, and it's such a fabulous exercise for anyone listening to this podcast to just list all the things that you've done in your life. You'll surprise yourself at like what a skill set you have.
Yeah. I think that's such a beautiful realization, right? Like I like to call the things that we have inside of us that we tend to, so to back up a step, we tend to judge the things that we just inherently know and think that everybody knows them. And if you're really good at something and people are coming to you for that thing, and you think that this is common knowledge, one, it's not, and two, it's your secret genius. And when you tap into your secret genius, that's where that channeling is at, right? Like if there's something that comes so natural to you that you think it comes naturally to everybody, it doesn't. Like not everybody has these incredible gifts. Not everybody sees the way that you do. And we tend to think, oh, well, everyone knows that. Like, that's not valuable. Everyone's good at that. And not everyone's good at that. That's the thing that you were put here to be good at if it's that easy for you. You don't have to create something that is hard, right? Look at the skill sets that you have. That's what adds up to what you're meant to do and how you're meant to show up in the world. And it's when you take that step back and think like, oh wait, this can be easy. And like it allows all of those dots to connect. And that's when you can tap into that greater source.
Yeah, and I think that's if you can only get there if you don't absolutely run yourself over with a bulldozer on the
Mhm.
mind mess that is, yeah, but it's too easy. It's so cheeky
Mhm.
for me to make money on it because it's so easy.
You know what's so funny? I always like to compare to like people who are wildly successful. So look at like Jeff Bezos at
Mhm.
Amazon. Do you think he's like, it's too easy to make a ton of money on Amazon? It's too easy to sit here and be a multi-billionaire, or like Elon Musk. Like he's not sitting there like, man, this is just too easy. And like Sure, there were moments of it that weren't easy. The business isn't necessarily easy, but tapping into the things that you're meant to
Tapping into
do
genius. Yeah.
is what's easy. And when you start to trust your intuition, trust that that's the voice of source coming to you, instead of judging it and saying like, no, so and so bro marketer over here says I have to have a funnel. Like, no, listen to the guidance system that's inside of your body that's telling you what to do. Like, that's the voice that you need to be listening to, because that's what's connected to that higher power that's guiding you where you need to go.
I love this. I love this. And it is. And I think, I mean, the biggest block I feel to many entrepreneurs is ourselves. We just stand in the way. It's like we need to sometimes just literally go through ourselves and go through the things, the and it's, we've touched a little bit on receiving in this podcast. And I think the receiving component is really interesting component, because receiving, not everyone is open to it. I see, like, one of the things that I teach, things like manifestation and stuff like that, and people can be excellent manifestors, but they're really rubbish at receiving. So even though they're very, very fast at manifesting things in, when it arrives, it's like they're just not really fully open and available for the thing to come in. And then they're not able to like hold the frequency for it, because they're like, and they're like, oh, it's too easy, it came too easy. I've seen people argue with literally an agent of source, and argue with that agent and be like, no, I can't accept this. And it's like, but wait a minute, you just told me last week on our coaching session you were trying to manifest that, and there it is coming into your life, and you're like going, I cannot accept that gift.
Yeah, we really are our own limitation. And this is something that I do in my work with launching, because I believe that true change comes, we're going to take it to the next level for just a second here. But like, I believe in alternate dimensions, and I believe that there are infinite alternate possibilities at all times.
Yes, definitely.
And in business, we can see sometimes like through the veil, right? We can see those outcomes that we wish to have. There's the track that we're on, like the dimension that we live within has a predictable outcome. We can like see at the end of the hallway, this is who I'll be if I continue down this road. But then there's like this thin veil when you put yourself in a business position where you can also see alternate realities. Like, oh, well, there's the 7-figure version of me. There's the broke version of me, right? We can see alternate realities. And then we also have the track that we're currently on. And it's one of the best, like one of the ways to shift into an alternate reality is to put yourself in the energy of change and like really opening up that energetic field. And there's a few things that really do that and make your energy nice and slippery. One is like a life-changing event, like your husband losing his job. That was a great example of mine that kind of shook me.
Kick in the
Yeah,
pants, right? A pattern
totally.
interrupter. It interrupts the pattern that you were in, and you were like, now it's do or die.
Exactly. So like someone dying, a near-death experience, like things like that tend to shake people. So that's
that
one
was
way.
Mine, the near-death experience, not recommended.
Yeah. 0 out of 10, don't recommend.
No, exactly. Not recommended. It's high stress.
Yes. Another one is putting yourself in the energy of other people. And so like live events are a really great way to do this.
Yes, they shift a lot for people.
Because it like messes with your energetic field and opens up possibilities for you. And the third, in my opinion, is launching. And this is the one that a lot of people miss, because when they experience launching, they put themselves out there, right? It's very exposing to launch your course, right? And you open up your energetic field and say, this is what I have to offer, pay me for it, right? And what can happen in that moment is you see all of the shadow that you're hiding in your jacket. And a lot of people close it and they're like, I don't want to face that. I'm just going to go and stay over here, because they peer into that energetic shift. Right. And so what I really like the way that I coach through launching is really coaching through like using launching as a healing mechanism, and really looking at that opportunity opening up that energetic field, peering at all of the shadow that's keeping you from sliding into that next dimension and really having that outcome that you desire, and looking at it. Like, if you had that come up for you, that like, I went to go live, but then I felt like I wasn't worthy, let's look at that, because you're never going to reach that next goal until you heal those things inside of you. And what a beautiful opportunity to kind of rip the wound open and get the crap out so you can heal it, than launching.
100%.
And
100%.
that's why people are so afraid of it, right? They're like, I literally had someone tell me this last week, launching is like touching a hot stove. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, it can be painful. And if it hurts the first time, you don't want to do it again. But like, how about let's turn the stove off? What if it's just a stove, right? Like, what's making it hot? And what's the pain that you're experiencing when you do it? That we can then examine that and look at it, because it's demanding to be looked at. And if you have goals that you haven't reached yet, it's because you still have that inside of you. You have
Yeah.
those beliefs that are burning you. And when we can examine that and heal that, that's how you reach that ultimate outcome. That's how you fully transition into that next reality.
I think so as well. And I think the biggest thing that I see around launching is the pressure that people place under themselves. They place themselves under tremendous pressure in a launch. It's not fun. It's literally sucked the fun out of ice cream. It's, it becomes a traumatic experience
Yes.
for some entrepreneurs, because everything is riding on this, instead of the vibes of joyful service, they run for the hills. It's like, I'm out of here. I can't do this. While you're like trying to control everything within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
Instead of the co-creation, the flow, the energy flowing and it being open. And this is about service and being in that vibes of excitement. Like, I wonder who's going to join us, and what's it going to be like, and what are we going to create together. And so many of those vibes literally completely leave the building, and everything just becomes this like high stakes game of do or die, and then you think, no wonder so many entrepreneurs burn out during launches and feel it's so traumatic. And I love that you're looking at launching as like a healing mechanism, because I see the whole business journey as like, there is nothing like business for bringing up the good, the bad, and the ugly, and if you have got the courage to face the ugly parts of your own nature and heal that and bring that back in to alignment and love that piece too, it is a next level of mastery that's available to people, which I really love. What's your biggest, since you are into launching, and launching is your big jam, what is your favorite launch tips? Can you share some of them with us?
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is something I actually started doing before I really understood what I was doing. I mean, I have always been spiritual. I grew up with a father, very luckily, who instilled that upon us. I didn't grow up in like a traditional Christian household. Like, I grew up understanding the laws of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But in launching, the first time that I really put this into practice was, I was feeling that same thing, right? This pressure. Oh my God, nobody wants it. What am I going to do? And instead of really staying in that energy, what I did was I decided to root myself in gratitude. And so I still do this, and it's one of my favorite practices during launching. Before I open the doors, I kind of put myself into this energetic bubble, and I say like a prayer of gratitude to the people who I'm going to receive, right? And so I create this like light bubble of gratitude, and I'm just so like, I feel it in my body, and I feel this like energy surge from my body, like that sun shining out of my chest thing. And I create this bubble of gratitude for the people who I've yet to receive, and I send that out to them. And then every day of the launch, when somebody purchases, no matter what I'm doing, I sit down and I say thank you, and I write down their name, and I say, Jenny, I am so excited and so grateful for you, and I cannot wait to help you with whatever. And then I literally like take that energy and I expand it out, and I send it to that person wherever they are in the world. And I imagine them receiving it and just feeling
Oh,
this
that's
like
gorgeous.
hug
I love
of
that.
gratitude. And I first started playing with this energy like over 2 years ago in my business. And I noticed this really interesting correlation that when I sent gratitude, more people came. Like it was almost this funny, energetic thing that like I would sit down and send gratitude. And then, like, by the time I'm done, another sale came in. And I'm like, time for some more gratitude. And so, like, it was really this like cause and effect thing that I realized that like the more grateful I am for who I have received and who I've yet to receive, the more I am open to receiving. And it takes you out of that fear. It takes you out of that meaning of like, what is it going to mean if I don't reach my goal and all of that nonsense? And it grounds you back in the present of feeling grateful for what you have received and what you have yet to receive. And it completely shifts the way that your energy is during a launch. And that's my favorite practice.
I love that. That's such a beautiful practice. I teach a lot in my business community. I teach a lot to people about the power of one, like, and I say to people, I get people to even count to 10. I say, count to 10. And and they go like 1, 2, feel really awkward doing it. That's only for my own kicks. And and then they count to 10, right? And then I said, well, could you get to 10 without the 1 and the 2? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so you want 10 clients in your program, but you're not happy with 1 and you're not happy with 2, right? Mm-hmm. So like, hello. And
yeah.
And then they get it, the penny drops, and they're like, oh. It's like, if you can feel that gratitude for 1, the 2 will come. You can feel the gratitude for the 2, you'll be at number 3, and each one is a 1. Each one is a 1. And before you know it, you're at the 10, you're at the 100, you're at 200, or my largest program that has over 4,300 enrolled students.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's amazing.
And it is just that power of 1. Every single one is just as important as the other. And I think this is the power of metaphysics in business, bringing in a metaphysical element into business. Because when I think of the kind of, not to give bro marketing too much of a hard time, but, when you think of like lead generation and funnels and all this, and like, yes, they have their place in their business, but I don't want to be a lead. I want to be a human being. And I don't want to be a number. I want to be Joanna. And I don't want to be like someone's not enough because I'm not number 100. I want to be somebody that matters to another human being. If I'm going to be in a program and going to go on an experience and a journey with someone through that. And I think that's what's so important. And that's one of the things where our work is so important, I feel, to create a balance, to offer an alternative to the what I call pile them high and sell them dear.
Yes.
Businesses, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so important to do business with heart. I have loved speaking to you, Jess. Can you tell people where they can find you on the interwebs? We're going to link you all below and everything, get you all sorted for that. But if somebody is desperate and is like, I need to Google something now, tell them where they can find you.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at jess.o'connell_. And I also have a podcast called The Launch Fix Podcast, where I talk all about the energetics of launching, as well as the strategy and really how to tap into that greater co-creation that's happening. I also have a website. It's kind of cool. It's just jessoconnell.com, but the other stuff is more fun.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I really loved our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.